All right, family. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for your patience.
Wa alaikum salam.
And yes, sir. Thank you all for your patience. For waiting and making sure that you stayed and waited for us to start. Um, Tonight's episode of the STEM Files is going to be incredible because we're going to be talking about the differences between an epidemic and a pandemic. So definitely stay tuned for more after this. All right, family. Once again, thank you all for your patience. This is the STEM Files, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, especially in the Black and Brown communities. My name is Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. I am a biomedical research scientist with a concentration or background in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. Now, usually I'm joined by my right-hand man, my best friend, Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabrain Engineer. He's a civilian mechanical engineer with the United States Navy. He works on naval ship fluid systems, so he works to make sure that the ships that you see out at sea in the United States Navy function and move as they should. I'm by myself tonight, but my brother's definitely here with us in spirit. Welcome to the platform, Brother Robert Muhammad. Thank you so much for your patience as well, because I know that was a difficult thing to go through, but we overcame it as FOI should, and we're all here right now. So welcome to the platform.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. And assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, yes, sir. So can you tell us about yourself? Oh, yes, sir, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for inviting me on your platform. You and Brother Jabril, I want to commend you. I want to thank you for such a fantastic job that you're doing, setting up this platform for our nation, because people need to know that the Nation of Islam is not a movement where, we just talk about the white man or just propagate Islam, but that we have brilliant Black people in the Nation of Islam who follow the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who's guiding us on a straight path to build a nation for ourselves. So this platform is absolutely necessary to showcase who we are when it comes to the talent, when it comes to the skills of nation building. So again, I thank you for that, and I'm honored to be a guest on your platform.
Well, praise is due to Allah. Thank you so much. Right. The honor is definitely all ours. And the words that you just spoke is exactly why we do what we do with the STEM Files. And when you think about the 9 ministries, or you're thinking about, everything that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has envisioned for his people and his nation, we want to use this show to extract that out of our people and out of our communities. So once again, thank you so much for joining us and bearing witness to what we're trying to do with this platform.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Yes, sir. All right, cool. So let's get to it. I don't want our audience to wait any longer as they did. But so tell us about yourself. What area of STEM are you in, and how did you get involved in epidemiology, and what do you currently do in your role as an epidemiologist?
Yes. Got it. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I started in this particular area of STEM. Probably it was in me over 20 years ago. I I met a gentleman who was an epidemiologist himself. His name is Al Simon. We refer to him as the old guard. And
Got it.
he was very, very knowledgeable, very proficient with, in particular, HIV and Hep C. So he was giving classes, and I would attend these classes, and the level of information that he was teaching, it really struck my interest, because this gentleman, he spoke like a physician, like a scientist, someone who actually was like on a PhD level. And then I developed a personal friendship with him. And when I decided to return to school, I was much older when I returned back to college. So it was a toss-up between going to law school or doing something on the medical side, because I always have interest in the areas of genetics and biological warfare, and even learning the teachings at a young age. I was always intrigued with the deeper science and the history of Yakub and what that meant in a modern language and in an advanced scientific language, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he was 100% right and exact on what he taught,
right,
respective to Yakub and what him and his followers did regarding the, I would say, the genetic code in the original man, and different things you can do with that. So that was always like in my mind, since I was young. So that coupled with when I met the brother is what directed me in this field. And I always tell people, like young people, that see in our community, when our parents and grandparents, when they think about medicine, they always think about doctors and nurses.
right.
But people must understand that and you notice the unseen forces in medicine are those of us who work behind the scenes, that do the
Exactly. Right,
research,
right,
see,
right.
that do the investigation, see, that go out there among the people as scientists, and we collect medical and biological and diseased information in real time. And then we bring
That's
it
right.
back to those who deal with the treatment and the therapy side of things. And there's a vast area in medicine that our people, we must go into, other than being physicians or being nurses. The research side and everything is very important. And then with my military mind, I not only believe, but I know that these are one of the greatest weapons that our open enemies have used against us. So it's necessary for
Right,
those of us who know and understand that we must go into these fields, not just as a profession to make money or work for the enemy, but for those of us in this nation, we know that we are at war. So we need these type of professions so that we can protect ourselves, because the word of God that we follow is strong. See,
right.
but we ain't gonna be arguing with this enemy when it comes to some of these different methodologies of war that they put against us. We have to know what they know and know it better so that we can protect ourselves from their onslaught. This is real. And
That's right.
inshallah, maybe we can get into some of that tonight.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely,
Right.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So before I do that, we are big on this show about breaking up words and making sure that our audience understands every bit of what we're
Absolutely.
saying. So with
Right.
you being an epidemiologist, first and foremost, what is epidemiology? How does it work? And how
Right.
do you use it day by day to accomplish your
Right.
goals?
Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to use any high science vocabulary. I'm going
Okay.
to put it in simple terms and layman terms. Okay,
Yes, sir.
epidemiology is a branch of medicine which deals with the incidence of disease, the distribution of disease, and the control of disease and other factors that may relate to a disease outbreak. The word
Right.
means, if you break the word down, it comes from a Greek derivative where the word, the first part of the word epi, E-P-I, it means upon.
Right.
See,
Right.
it means upon or coming upon. And then the rest of the word, demiology, it means people. So what it indicates is something upon the people, meaning that when we hear this word epidemiology, what it entails is that those of us as epidemiologists, we study and investigate why disease happened, where is it happening at, and how or what we can do to control this disease. That's epidemiology.
Got it. Got it. All right. So now that you broke that down, and I appreciate you using layman terms because, even though we are scientists, you want to make sure that we can communicate what we do effectively to our people. So now that you broke
Speak the
that
language of the
down,
people, right?
exactly, speak the language of the people, regardless of what you're doing. And matter of fact, let's talk about that for a little
Right.
bit. Because I think that's one of the reasons why our people, we don't have enough of our own in epidemiology is because of how it's being communicated to the public. So how do
Yes.
you engage with the community? How do you take what you know and break it down so much so that it can be received by the community and they want to come in or do what you're doing? Like, do you have mentees? Do you have people that just be like, thank you, Mr. Muhammad. I appreciate that. I understand what you're saying. And you took the time out to explain it right. Go break it down.
Yes. Well, actually, part of my work, um, I work along with other medical professionals, and being that epidemiologists, we do a lot of frontline work in terms of
Right.
gathering data and information. So what happens is over the years, I've trained, especially one of the areas I specialize in is HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus. And I've
Mm-hmm.
trained physicians on how to deal with treatments on people who's living with that particular virus. I've trained nurses. I've worked with EMTs on how to engage patients who may have certain communicable diseases. So, my job encompasses all of those other areas that are associated with the medical field. And to give you a little bit more background, because I didn't answer the last part of your question, what I do currently is that I I supervise a team of outreach workers and population health experts who deal with HIV and Hep C. I would just put it in this context, out in the streets. So we have
Right.
a
Right.
what we call intervention and prevention program where we implement various harm reduction techniques to protect this particular targeted population. On the other side of it, I work with CUNY City University of New York, where I direct an educational program where we teach and train young adults and adult learners to come into the public health field. So where I supervise professors and I also help them develop the various curriculums that we use for some of the courses, as well as collaborate, with other health departments that are part of the university system, and also, those with community-based organizations, because what we do a lot is they'll funnel for us students from their various community-based programs. So we'll recruit to bring them in to our program and get them started in public health or in other areas of the medical field. So that's what I do every day on a daily basis. Part of it is dealing administratively with budgets and whatnot. That's the other side of medicine people don't understand, is that the budgeting side and the fiscal analysis side is very important, because how you going to pay for all of this, and you have to deal with funders and whatnot, and how you deal with them is by presenting the facts. You have to show, based on what we do in the field, that the money that's allocated to fight diseases and injuries and whatnot, that is going to be put in the right places. Another part of it is setting up, different strategies in the field when we target areas that that we may see epidemics taking place. See, and we can kind of segue into what the differences are between epidemics and pandemics, because what I notice is that in the public, I'll call it, I'm from New York, so there's a lot of freestyling, or a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to these outbreaks and how they work and what are the different protocols, etc. So, a lot of that, defines, what I do in the field of epidemiology and population health.
Got it. Okay. All right. Wow. So, usually at the 30-minute mark, we go ahead and do a Black business highlight. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and segue from the program and deliver a special message from Nehemiah Mabry, who's over the STEM Success Summit. He has an online virtual free conference coming up to help engage the community and get them more involved in STEM. So take a look at this.
So I have to ask the question, did you register for the STEM Success Summit yet? You haven't? Or you have? Look, listen, regardless, you and everybody you know need to go and secure your free ticket for the 3rd annual STEM Success Summit. We're going to be talking about personal branding, personal wellness, career strategy and development, entrepreneurship, healthcare and medicine. We also have the brand new STEM Success Award. We're going to acknowledge and allow you to vote on people in the community that are doing great things. We also have some scholarships that we're going to be giving away from one of our sponsors, not to mention our Career and Community Expo. Go to 2021.stemsuccesssummit.com. Get your free ticket. This is going to be your opportunity to join our collective community and synergize our efforts so that we can all make a better impact and bring more value in our career. So I see you there. I'll be looking for you. No, you, for real. I'm looking for you. So.
All right, family. Definitely tap into that. It's a very, very powerful program. We participated in it last year where we spoke about invention counseling. So definitely take a look at that. And the link is going to be right there in the description. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it again. This show is called Epidemic versus Pandemic. So, Brother Robert, can you tell us what are the key differences between an epidemic and a pandemic, as well as breaking down the words? Epi, and then you got pan. Mm-hmm. Why are they named differently, and what are some of the key differences between the two, and how can we spot them if Allah forbid we're ever in another pandemic or we're in another epidemic?
There'll be more.
Right.
Yes. I would start by saying this. An epidemic I'll start off like this. A pandemic is an epidemic that just grew larger. See that? Right. So now, we'll break down the differences. again, the word is similar to epidemiologist, the word epidemic. An epidemic, I'm going to answer it by giving examples. An epidemic takes place when a disease or an outbreak happens among a particular population, specific population, or in a specific geographical area. See? So when you hear the word epidemic, it kind of means one place, one area,
Right.
to a specific group or population. See? Now, a pandemic is an outgrowth of the epidemic. See? And we're going to go jump into the COVID situation right after this, right? So,
Right.
when an epidemic spreads what we call outside of its borders, meaning that it spreads to another continent or to another country, then it's considered a pandemic because it becomes global or international, some may say. That's the difference. So it can still be the same disease or outbreak that started as an epidemic, but it becomes a pandemic when it reaches outside of its borders. So when you look at the word epi, the first three letters in epidemic is now changed with PAN, pandemic, because the word pan means all over. See,
Right.
it comes from the Greek, which when you say pan, it means all over. It's almost like Black nationalists, we would use the word
Pan-African.
Pan-Africanism.
Right.
See, it's the same, right? So whenever you hear the word pan, it means global, it means all over, or it means international. So that's the difference. One, epidemic, meaning in a local area with a particular population. Pandemic, meaning the disease has spread beyond its borders, it's become global, and it's touching everybody. See, that's the difference in layman's terms. Okay.
Got it.
Now, for example, if you look at what they call the COVID-19 outbreak, right?
Right.
It started in Wuhan, China. When it started in Wuhan, it was an epidemic because it was only contained in that area.
In that region, right.
Right, in that region, right. Once it expanded outside of those borders and they found it in Italy, in the United States, and then it spread in other continents like Africa. At that point, COVID-19 was considered a pandemic. See? So that's the example on how epidemic becomes a pandemic, and those are the differences. Now, there are other stages to this, which I will explain really quick, because in epidemiology, we look at 5 main stages of epidemics and pandemics. So here we go back to Wuhan. When the COVID-19 outbreak started, the first thing they investigated was its association with animals.
Right.
And particularly bats, right? That's why you heard that. That's called stage 1. See? Stage 1 is the animal infectious stage, also known as zoological stage. That's the first stage of investigation. The second stage is human to human, because once they determine that, we'll say virus, being that this is a virus, which is really SARS, not COVID-19. COVID is not a virus. SARS is a virus, but we'll get into that. You look at human transmissions, that's stage 2, right? Stage 3, what we just talked about, is how it increases to a pandemic. That's stage 3. So they're going to look at, why is this disease spreading and how it's spreading from human to human. The fourth stage is what they call decreasing stage, meaning that if you remember in the beginning of COVID, there were a lot of deaths, there were high rates of infections. So that's when the virus, it was hot. It was like a hot zone. It was at its peak.
Right, right.
So a lot of people were sick. It was spreading like wildfire. But when you get to the fourth stage, they look at now, how is it starting to decrease or level itself out? And then the fifth stage is what's called the post-pandemic stage, where they look at the disease activity and how the disease reach, like usually is what they call when it reaches the level of the flu, meaning that it becomes a commonality within the human population, or what they're looking for is what's known, you may have heard this term before, herd immunity.
Right,
See that?
right.
Now, currently, in my professional opinion, where COVID is concerned, is that we're only at stage 3. We're only at stage 3. See? Because there's been a decrease, but there's still a lot of gray areas with the variants and things of that nature. So again, I would say that we're still pretty much at stage 3. And usually in a stage 4 situation, they're also looking to see how therapies work. So now with these vaccines, and I read today that they came out with some type of pill now. So, they're looking to see how they can add that into a stage 4 situation. And then you have kind of like three other areas of epidemics and how they start. You have what's known as a common epidemic, and how it works real quick is that it could be like a small group of people who are infected by a particular type of virus or bacteria, but it stays only within that group because that particular group has only been infected by the toxin, not the virus itself. So being only infected with the toxin means that they're not able to spread this sickness onto other people, right? Then you have another part called propagated epidemic. Now, propagated epidemic means that this group is infected, and we can use an example like food poisoning. You're going to a restaurant and eating or whatever, but this group can be infected with a propagated epidemic situation where they carry the actual virus or vector. And then what happens is they're able to spread it to more people. That's called propagated. And then you have what's known as a mixed epidemic, where it can be either or. See, where some may have the actual infection and others may only have the actual toxin. And we look at these 3 areas as well when we're doing an investigation to see how a particular outbreak or a particular virus began. Any questions?
Right. So let me ask you this. You broke down the stages of how how something can go from an epidemic to a pandemic, and you talked about how the disease traveled from one part of the world to another. But let's talk about these stages in particular, especially stages 4 and 5. We have. I'll put it to you like this: our general community has gotten very relaxed on precautions, very relaxed on wearing their masks, large gatherings, different things of that nature. What makes them so confident in the vaccine or in the fact that if you're not vaccinated, if you're vaccinated, that you're the one contributing to the spikes or anything of that nature? What makes people so confident that they can just continue to go to parties, go to concerts, do whatever they want to do, and act as if nothing's going on?
Okay, when you say people, you talking about vaccinated or unvaccinated people?
Anybody going along with the go along
Right. Well,
and just being all comfortable.
That's a very good question, and it's complex.
Right.
Because what I'm seeing, because I still go in the field a lot, and our people, right? Many of us are just mavericks. See?
Yeah.
And like when I talk to brothers and sisters, especially the brother that's on the block, he's hugging the block. He already has a mentality that it's survival mode, it's life or it's death. So
right. Already.
Already. So this phenomenon of COVID-19 risk factors, they really don't care. I've even had some brothers and sisters tell me that they don't even believe it exists. And some others told me that they don't even believe they can get it. See? And then there are those on the other side of the road who believe in the vaccines, and that if they take the vaccine, that well, I don't even want to call it a vaccine. Let's call it what it is. This experimental vaccine, because it's an experiment. They believe that if they take this experimental vaccine, that they have, better protection or full protection. I mean, we know that the powers that be, they really rely and they play on the ignorance of the people. That's the bottom line. And being that we're on that subject, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said it best during the criteria that this, and it's interesting that he said this was prophecy, because this is way before they introduced vaccines to the public, that them bringing a vaccine to the public is a declaration of war. And that's what we're dealing with right now. We are dealing with war. This is why I've never read it. I'm still trying to find it, but I've heard the minister say it. I've heard Dr. Ali Muhammad say it, is that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's desire is to destroy the American medical system. See? And we know that this medical system has not been a friend to Black people. I've seen you advertise this quite a bit. Every Black family should have this book in their home.
That's right.
Medical Apartheid. Our sister Harriet Washington, she's done a phenomenal job on outlining the history of the medical system used against Black people, foreign and domestic.
Very well done.
Every Black family should have this book in their library and study it, read it, and even put it to memory, because it would give you a realistic perspective on what we're dealing with when it comes to this medical system. So I see, and that's another reason why I went into this field, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he wanted to destroy this enemy's medical system. So in order for us to do that, we have to be involved in medicine and these other areas of STEM. This is how we're going to get it done. In fact, let me read something to you. My favorite book.
Yes, sir.
Because we can't see. I know I can't. I'm not going to talk about all of this without showing the foundation, because it's because of this man. See, and his top student, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that I'm doing what I'm doing professionally.
That's right.
Because
Yes, sir.
I went into this with the mind of a God and the mind of a Black man that our people need help. So
Yes, sir.
just let me reference something from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Okay.
Take your time.
And see, when we, this book here is nation building. See, this book is our blueprint to nation building. So you'll see in here with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he's giving us instructions. And we know from the gate, even our supreme wisdom, we are referred to as students. See? So the messenger says here, page 41, the acquiring of knowledge for our children and ourselves must not be limited to the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. It should instead include the history of the Black nation, the knowledge of civilization of man and the universe, and all the sciences.
That's right. That's right.
See that?
Man, you should have let me. You should have let me know. You should have told me you was gonna read from that. I would have blasted it up on the screen.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And all the sciences. See? What is he telling us?
That's right.
This is not playtime.
Right, right.
He's telling us what we're supposed to do. Not church, not mosque only, not religion only, not theology only. You know, the supreme captain, our supreme captain, Mustafa Farrakhan, the last time he was in New York. And see, when, you know, I'm always really looking at what people say and how they illustrate it. So he gave an illustration. He said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, he said, we got God down pat. We have theology down pat. We can teach the Bible, we can teach the Quran. He said, we're here with that. He said, but when it comes to the economics and science, we're here. And he said, and he used his hands just like this. He said, so we got to bring the science and the economics up here with the theology. See?
That's right.
So this is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is telling us here. So now, one more excerpt, right?
Take your time with it. Yes, sir.
I teach this to students that are not even in the nation. I teach this to students, just like this. Make it plain, right? So now, let's look here. This is why what you're doing, you and Brother Jabril, is so important, brother. You're following the messengers and the minister's instructions. See?
Praise due to Allah. Yes, sir. And people who are watching, audience, please feel free to comment. And if you're feeling what you're hearing and you can resonate with brother, please drop a 1 or a fist in the comment section. I want to see y'all engagement.
Now, page 223, right? Here, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he's getting geopolitical.
Right.
See? This ain't no lightweight book. All our instructions are on here. See? Here he goes. In order to be recognized today, you must represent your nation. We must understand the importance of land to our nation. The first and most important reason that the individual countries in Europe, Africa, Asia are recognized as nations is because they occupy a specific area of the earth. Second, they are recognized because of the effectiveness of their internal unity and policies, and then by their enactment of international policies and agreements with other established nations. Why is that important? Why is that important? See, in today's world, we're going to talk about STEM.
Yes, sir.
The nations that lead in technology are those who are going to always be in charge. That goes for us too.
That's right.
If we don't bring our STEM capabilities up and we talk about building a nation, do you know that we'll have to still compete with America? We'll have to compete with China. We'll have to compete with Taiwan. See?
That's right.
We'll have to compete with Israel. See? This is real.
That's right.
See? So we have to bring it up. So now the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says this. He poses a question. Do we have the qualified men and women for self-government? See?
Talk about them nine ministries. Yes, sir.
Look what he says. Look what he says. The answer to the above question is yes. Now, I want you to think about this in modern terms. We do not have to be equal in knowledge with every nation to be successful in operating our own government. Were those whites who first came to this country seeking self-government equal with England's parliamentary lords? There are probably many independent people who do not have among them many who have the know-how of the American educated class of so-called Negroes. We have enough. Now he's talking about us. Now
That's
think
right.
about us
enough.
today. See, we have enough technicians, such as mathematicians, construction engineers,
That's right.
civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, physicists, chemists, educators, agriculturalists, navigators, and aeronauts among the 22 million or more of us. You will find scholars or scientists, see, again, scientists.
There we go. Yes, sir.
Whom we can use in every branch of government. Then there are our own independent people outside of this country who would be glad to help us get going in a country or state for ourselves. It's not just about religion, brother.
That's right.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew, he knows what we must do. See?
That's right. Yes, sir.
So we got to step it up, brother.
Right. Matter of fact, that was the excerpt from Message to the Black Man that we used to jumpstart the Ministry of Science and Technology on a national scale to show them that, look, this talk about STEM is not anything new. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was talking about this 50, 60 years ago. Right. Let's catch up, you know?
Right, exactly. Catch up. Because see, a lot of us, we read the book and we stay stuck on who the white man is. The white man is the devil, or, you know, other feel-good aspects of the teachings, you know, just to make us feel good. But we have to get down to the serious business and instructions that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us about nation building. Everything he named in that list that I read are all the tools, the occupational skills and whatnot that's needed for us to build a nation. If we went somewhere right now for land of our own, we got to build highways, we got to build hospitals, we got to know how to operate them. See, we got to drill for oil and other minerals that are in the earth. See,
that's right.
We're not going to do this or be able to do it by osmosis. See, what are you going to do? We're going to call China in to come help us, like a lot of our brothers and sisters in Africa have done, and now their countries and their mineral resources are being hijacked by China.
Exactly. They got their own stuff to worry about.
Right. They didn't have the brain power, or they didn't utilize the human resources that were needed to just do it for themselves. See? So we don't want to, we're not going to be in that position. We're not going to be in that position.
That's right.
So,
Wow. You know, I'm a we coming up on a we technically we didn't do an hour because we had so many technical difficulties, but I want to get into some questions from the audience, and we're gonna definitely come back to the nation building aspect later at the end of the show, because there's some things I wanted to ask you about your role as a first officer. But this question, yes, sir, this question is from the Black Math Academy. He asks, how do we prepare or prevent for another epidemic or pandemic?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
Yes, sir. Oh, let me remix it a little bit. How do we prepare or prevent another pandemic such as this one? Because this one was one of the hardest, the heavy hitters of the pandemics that we've seen over the last couple hundred years. But how can we, you know, prevent something like this from happening again? What are some of the pitfalls that we can avoid?
Right. Well, first let me just say this. I wouldn't say that it's the worst in the last 100 years, because when HIV hit the Black community, it ravaged our community. It really did us dirty. So that alone was a demonstration of what we're up against and what we're still up against where that's concerned, right? How do we prepare ourselves? We prepare ourselves with knowledge and what I call praxis, right? Praxis meaning that when we have the knowledge of how epidemics work, how pandemics work, then we can prepare ourselves for the next one, whether it happens naturally or whether it's man-made. Hint, man-made, okay?
Right.
We're dealing with a real enemy today. I see it on a daily basis. Now,
that's right.
Now, I was at the CDC for 4 days, right, in 2020, and I was down there for some training. We had some training dealing with COVID and emergency procedures, and I learned how to put on hazmat suits, all that kind of stuff, right? The point I'm bringing up is that in one of the meetings that I were in, they admitted that they were not prepared. See, if you look at when COVID first struck this country, they were unprepared. There were no ventilators in hospitals. There weren't enough hospital beds. They didn't have therapeutics to properly respond, to the outbreak. So this was a demonstration that they were unprepared. Here is where separation starts. See, for us, the Black community, let me go back to what the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said during the criteria. He said, we need our own scientists.
Right. I was about to ask you that question too.
Our own chemists, our own epidemiologists, see? Our own biologists, our own virologists, see? And I'll add some more to it. We need our own doctors and physicians, see? We need our own pharmacists. Pharmaceuticals is another area that we must go into, because medicine, meaning pharmaceuticals, is necessary. But we need to be in charge and control of how they are manufactured or produced and distributed in our community. And we have people in all these professions. How do we get them is the question. And I don't have the answer for that right now. See, so to answer the brother's question is that we need those things in place in order to protect ourselves from the next epidemic or pandemic. We cannot depend on the enemy to do what's best for our community. I don't even have to really get into that, even on the conspiracy level, because the evidence is right in front of our faces.
That's right. Lay it out for you.
Right in front of our faces. So that's how I would answer that question. We need those people and professions in place. That's the praxis of it. So it's knowledge and it's praxis. That's my answer to that.
Beautiful answer.
Any
Yes,
other
sir.
question? Thank
And
you.
Black Math Academy, if you're watching, please drop a 1 in the comment section if that answered your question. I have a question stemming from that, and it's really about your career working with AIDS and HIV.
Yes.
What year did you start working with HIV? Was it around the time Dr. Aleem started, or was it a
No,
little
it was
after that?
It was way after that. I started around 2008.
2008. Okay, got it. So did his
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, did his work or did his research? Not gonna say research, but did his work, clinical work, inspire you or help to inspire you to get into that? Like, has it benefited you in any way? Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Again, it was always in me. Just took a little while to come out. I had a close family member, an uncle of mine, who passed away from AIDS back in like 1984. So I spent a lot of time around him, watching him die, watching him deteriorate. And
Yes, sir.
I've always been like a critical thinker. So it's like that always stayed with me, and when the time was right, for me to go into this profession, my uncle was always, in my mind, as one of the inspirations for me to do this work. And especially like in 1984, we were still ignorant about, how that particular disease worked. So he expired really fast. There was nothing they could do for him. So I always wondered, like, what kind of disease is this? Like, how does it work? So that inspired me as well. But again, I started around 2008 in this work.
Got it. And when you came into the Nation of Islam, you were a college student at that time?
No, sir.
Oh, you're still in high school?
No, I was a college dropout.
Got it. Okay.
Well,
So
I've been in the nation. I've been in the nation over 31 years now.
Praise be to Allah. So let's talk about that a little bit. We talking about since maybe 1990, 89-ish. Okay. So 1990. So let's talk about that a little bit. You dropped out of college and now you're an epidemiologist. Talk about bouncing back. Coming, thinking that you've given up. You don't want to deal with education anymore. Right. So now you came back and you became something that at that time you knew you just wasn't going to be. So let's talk about that journey, how you came back and reeled yourself back into education.
Well, in short, it happened after trying everything that failed. Yeah. And then, growth and development, maturity. I heard the Honorable Minister Farrakhan say that when you come in these teachings, it brings everything out of you.
Yes.
All the stuff. It brings everything out of you. But if we're steadfast, then we'll begin to develop into who we truly are. So that has been my journey. And when I got started getting a little older, I knew that it was time for transformation. And part of that transformation, which began spiritually first, then I knew that it was time, to return to school, because I didn't want to just be, just a soldier and because I've always been a heavy reader, I know that it's more than that. So, I had to find, what my gifts are and my talents, and go acquire the necessary learning and credentials, and then bring it back, to the nation that I love, you know. So that's how it started.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You mentioned something very key. You didn't want to be just, I'm not going to say the average, but you didn't want to just focus on, mosque and mosque duties and stuff of that nature. You wanted to
Right.
get the talent, use it, and build your nation. So
Right.
during your time as the student first officer in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
How
That's
did
when I
you
was a young
use
man.
young man? Got it.
I was a
All
young
right,
man.
so beautiful. So now you're still active in the Nation of Islam. That hasn't changed. So how do you use your current role as an epidemiologist to inspire the brotherhood to do or to get involved into nation building activities? What do you say? Like, how do you approach the men?
It's well, I'm close with so many brothers. I love the brotherhood, man. Just really through demonstration, and I get calls all the time, or when I speak to brothers, they tell me like, man, you really inspire me, and I'm going back to school. And I'm talking about this is the how could I call us? We're like the not really the senior crew, but we're the young old man crew.
Got it. Yes, sir.
We're a little older now, but we still got it. We still got
Right.
that youth. So and that's from the teaching. So a lot of us, we understand now at this point. We've been lieutenants, we've been captains, we've been first officers, and we've been security officers. So for many of us, we know that it's time to elevate ourselves to do more for the nation. Old men for counsel, young men for war. I mean, I love the young brothers, man. We have all of you, man, some fantastic, sharp, smart young brothers, man, and sisters in the nation, man. And it makes me feel good to see what many of you are doing, because now, I believe that we have a future. We have a future.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
again, and this goes back to the STEM. So we have to master these areas, because again, it's about building a nation, not just the drilling and and the teaching and all of that. That's part of it, but the other part of it is the structure and nation building and separation, and not on impulse, separation through mathematics.
That's right.
Yeah.
Proper planning. Yes, sir.
There you go.
Absolutely. Speaking of mathematics, I'm glad you said that, because this is the perfect segue into the next question. But first and foremost, I just want to say I want to thank my grandfather for a minute. My grandfather, he was brother George 35X in New York. He was the investigator.
I know brother George. Yeah.
Right. And absolutely, man.
Close with him.
Pleased.
When I was a young FOI, and I was still a lot on the rough side, brother George would always pull me to the side, say, "Brother Robert, you can do better, brother. You can do better."
I hear that same thing from a lot of brothers from that time. Praise be to Allah.
Yeah, because we were super soldiers back then. Yeah, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Just one of the things that he said I think about a year or two before he passed. I wanted to do what he was doing. I wanted to be an investigator. I wanted to be an inspector of some sort. But he told me to leave that alone and just focus on becoming a doctor, because that was what I wanted to do. So I just want to thank all the FOI out there who encourage the young men to go after these nation building disciplines, because they believe in what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad believed in and what he saw for his nation. So I want to thank you.
Right.
I want to thank all the brothers like yourself, and just all the believers and anyone who wants to see Black people successful. That is, I wanted to say that for the end of the show, but it was coming out, and I just had to acknowledge that for a minute.
Okay.
And right,
Yes,
praise be to Allah. Excellent.
And
Yes, sir.
that's something that going back to when I was a student first officer, because one of my brothers who was close with me, his name is Mustafa. He um, he reminded me recently of how I would always tell the men to finish school and to go back to school,
Right.
back in the 90s. And I was kind of surprised by it, because sometimes you just forget about certain things you say or you've done or how you had a positive impact on people. But he reminded me of that same thing recently, about a week ago on the phone, how I would do that, especially with a lot of the younger brothers that was around us at that time. I didn't allow them to just be out there all the time, just soldiering and just hanging around the mosque. Are you in school? And if you're not in school, you need to get in school. And myself and the staff that was around at that time, who were a little bit older, we would actually push that on a lot of the younger men. If they didn't have a GED or high school diploma, go back and get that. Go to college, take up a vocational skill or, of some sort, to be able to do better and to eventually, help your nation. So I was pushing that back then, although I wasn't specifically doing it, but I was actually pushing that because it was always in my mind that eventually I would get back to it as well, which I did.
Right. Praise be to Allah. Wow. That's a beautiful thing. And the constant reminders, always a blessing, whether it's correction or whether it's a thank you, that goes a long way, very long way.
Right.
So we brought up mathematics, right?
Yes.
And we have another question from the Black Math Academy. He said, how much math do you use in your study? What subjects? Calculus, differential equations. Now his podcast is centered around Black mathematicians.
Right.
So when he asked you this question, like he's like real serious about it. So, and I'm anxious to know too, like what types of math do you use on a daily? Not what types of math did you have to learn to get your qualifications, but what types of math do you use, day to day?
Right. Good question. There are two type of mathematics that we use in epidemiology most of the time. We have something that's called quantitative analysis, right? And quantitative analysis, we use statistics and we use biostatistics. Those are the main two. We use different systems. And see, this is the thing about technology. Most of this, we have software that we use that provides us with the data and information that's important to whatever we're doing. So we use what's called SPSS systems, and we use another electronic system called SAS. So what happens is, and really this is a good question because it leads me into the different types of surveillance that we do when we're collecting information on disease. See, so another area of what we do is called disease surveillance, right? So the first one I'm going to start with is observation. So to give an example of observation, we'll go out, say in what we call a hotspot, say where sex workers are at, because we have data that shows us that sexually transmitted infections or new HIV infections may be coming from a particular area. So what we do is we'll send a team down to observe the behavior and the activity within that respective area. So what happens is we observe how many people are, how can I put it without being vulgar, but how many people are paying money to see these varieties of sex workers.
Right.
What happens is we approach the sex workers themselves and some of the people or men who are buying the sex. We bring them into a what's called an outreach vehicle, and we have various things in the vehicle, but we may conduct a test with them, but we also conduct interviews with them based on their sexual behaviors. So that's one method through observation that we gather information. Well, really two, I mentioned the interviews. So it's the observation and the interview that are like the first two steps in disease surveillance for us to gather the information. The third step is what we call electronic. So once we collect the hard data, we use an SPSS system or an SAS system. We enter the data and the data quantifies the analysis for us. So if you look at it from a biostatistical area, the bio part determines for us how the disease is affecting the population through transmissions, see,
Right.
or through new transmissions, or from those who are already infected, see? And then it quantifies it for us by, of course, giving us the numbers, but then it gives us the statistical analysis by percentage rates, see? So that's how we
Right.
use mathematical equations in epidemiology. Based, I want to
Got
use
it.
that disease surveillance technique or harm reduction technique to show that's how it's actually done mathematically.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, like,
Right.
say for example, right, you're watching a movie like The Contagion, right? And they're
Yes.
talking about, well, just when it comes
One
to
of my
handling
favorite
the
films.
situation. Say that again.
No, I said that's one of my favorite films.
Right. Right. Same here. Same here.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just looking at how they handle the situation and the science and public response. How accurate is the procedures and the response in that movie to that issue?
It's a good question. It's difficult in a way because they used a lot of military examples, I would say.
Right.
Hold on, excuse me. My bad. I'm thinking of Outbreak.
Oh,
You're talking
yeah.
about Contagion. Yeah,
Contagion. Right.
Contagion. I'm sorry. Contagion. Do you see? I got all these movies in my head, right? World War Z is another one of my favorite ones.
Right. Right. Right.
Right. But Contagion, I would say that the process of investigation, it was accurate in that film. It was accurate.
Got it. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Because when all these films came out, and so I'm in biomedical research, so I spent a lot of time in the laboratory,
Right.
dealing with, specimens that come in after it has already killed somebody or before it gets
Right.
the chance to do so.
Right.
So is there a certain uh, is there a certain type of professional that these movies reach out to, or is it something that they have a hunch on, or what have you? But what do these movies use to develop the accuracy in their storytelling?
Right. That's a good question. Well, you got to remember, Hollywood is governed by very intellectual and very smart social scientists. See,
Right.
so they know what these processes are like because they do their research and they do their investigation to be as accurate as they can. Because one of the things they don't want to do is when you're dealing with movies that talk about outbreaks and diseases and whatnot, if they come up inaccurate, the real science will always prove them wrong. See? So those among them who develop these particular type of films, they try to be as close to accuracy as they can. And they'll bring in experts and advisors to show them how these processes work. Like going back to Contagion, like remember when I
Right.
talked about the 5 main stages of epidemics, they actually started off that way because that particular outbreak started from an animal. See? So it went from the animal infection to the human infection and transmission, and then to the increase in that particular virus or disease. So that chain of evidence was accurate when it came to how we actually investigate how diseases and outbreaks began. See? So in order for them to do that, they had to get the real information or the real processes that we use to start these investigations.
Right. Gotcha. Because I always wondered, well, some of the movies they'll be as accurate to the point where, wow, this is COVID right now,
Right.
and it's like literally step by step everything that we're dealing with. So a lot of people
You
think,
said
oh, they telling the future. Or say that again.
right. You said it's
Right.
COVID right now. That's what you said. Okay.
Right. So
Right.
like people are comparing it to what we're dealing with right now,
Right.
or
Let me.
they were telling the future and it's then the third. Go ahead, brother.
Right. That's true. Right. Because again, let me say this. FOI, the military training of men that belong to Islam in North America. See,
Right.
in the meaning of FOI, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says that military means maneuvers. See, it means we have to study our enemy, our surroundings, overcome obstacles in the path of training. We already stated, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the medical establishment is our enemy. We showed medical apartheid. That in that book, it references so many biological warfare campaigns waged against the Black community with mosquitoes. You
Right.
had the South African government had a biological warfare program aimed against Black people, where they found a way to isolate genes in Black people where they would deploy certain biological weapons that would only kill Black people. She presents the evidence in this book. See?
That's right.
The man, the white man, who was a part of this, I think his last name was Ford, he killed himself when the FBI raided his home and found these chemicals that were made to only kill Black people. They found them in his home along with all other types of weapons and drug paraphernalia and whatnot. One of the conspirators in that case said that the man from South Africa, he said that their program on a United States Department of Defense model. See that?
Right.
So during the 70s and the 80s, the United States provided the technology for them to develop these kind of weapons. Now, why am I saying all this? Because you mentioned COVID. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said what this is, a declaration of war. Real quick, viruses can be manipulated. You know that.
That's right.
You work in the
Yes,
lab.
sir. Right.
Viruses can be manipulated. Some people even say that viruses are not natural to the environment. I don't know whether that's accurate or not, but some people say that. But the point being is that a virus can actually be manipulated. Although we know they mutate, they evolve, but you can weaponize them by using
The genetic makeup, right?
Now, right, the genetic makeup, right. So now,
Right.
why are viruses different from diseases? Everybody got to question that if they knew. Now, let's look at HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. It's not, HIV is not a disease. It's the
Right.
human immunodeficiency virus. It causes AIDS. See?
Right.
It causes AIDS. What is AIDS? Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Why is it called that as a disease? Now, the virus, and we don't have time to get all into this, but the virus specifically attacks the human immune system, the body's defense.
Right.
Why is that? I don't believe that happened by accident.
No, sir.
See?
Not at all.
So now, when it breaks down the immune system, the disease that a person gets is called AIDS. So what that means, again, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, is that the person's immune system has been compromised to the point where they can't fight off any disease or infections. That's why it's called AIDS. See? Because the immune system is totally deficient, has been totally compromised. And the S means syndrome, because a syndrome only implies that it can be a group of diseases or infections that can kill a person.
Exactly.
This particular virus works with military precision because, real quick, if this virus can get into the immune system, which is it's an RNA virus, single strand, but it has the chemical ability to trick the body into thinking that the RNA is actually DNA. So when it gets into the blood cells, it's replicating itself, but in a retarded way, because now the body knows that it's being attacked. But now the antibodies are not strong enough to fight off this particular virus. See? So I'm just putting that out here to demonstrate that, to me, these things don't happen by accident. They don't happen by accident. So we're dealing.
So you guys, Dr. Fauci, about that.
That's right. We're dealing with an enemy who's notorious for this. See, and we don't even have to go back far in history. This is all recent. Now to COVID that you mentioned. Many people think COVID-19 is a virus. That's not a virus.
Right. It's the disease causing the
COVID-19
virus,
is not
right?
a virus.
That's right.
Right. The disease that's causing the virus has been around for a little while. I mean, excuse me, the virus that's causing the
Right.
disease has been around for a little while, right? That virus is the SARS-2 COVID. See? SARS meaning serious acute respiratory disease, right? So
Yes, sir. Serious acute respiratory syndrome, right?
syndrome. So how is this SARS that's been around for quite a while suddenly start causing the disease known as COVID-19? It's just a question. How did they manipulate that particular virus? And I'm not talking really trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but I'm talking from a scientific view, is that suddenly SARS, okay, caused this particular disease, manipulated. That's as scientists, we come up with these questions. Was this manipulated? Because it wasn't doing that before. SARS wasn't doing that before. And then now, COVID-19, the symptoms are more advanced than what SARS was originally causing.
Right.
Now, here's my military mind again. Why does COVID-19 specifically, just like HIV, specifically will attack the immune system? Why does COVID-19 specifically attack the human respiratory system? I don't believe in coincidences. See, now I want to show you something real quick.
Yes, sir.
Just some information.
Yes, sir. We're gonna wrap up that point, and then we're gonna get into a question from the audience, and then we're gonna close out. Yes, sir. But take your time on it.
Okay. Right. So this is a paper from the Department of Defense, right? And
Right.
it says officials probe the threat of a coronavirus bioweapon. Okay? I'm just going to read a quick sentence.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The Pentagon and the intelligence community are more forcefully investigating the possibility that adversaries could use the novel coronavirus as a bioweapon. According to defense and intelligence officials, in a shift that reflects the national security apparatus evolving understanding of the virus and the risk. See, understanding of the virus and its risk as a bioweapon, right?
Right.
I'm just going to skip. A bioweapon isn't something that looks like a munition, meaning it's not a gun, it's not a bullet, it's not a bomb. It's just a pathogen. For a nation state with a more advanced biological weapons program, this virus, meaning they're still saying it's COVID, they're calling it a virus, right? Could be given enhanced characteristics, and it could be spread using easily accessible tools like a fogger or a spray or aerosol agent.
So you're talking about that gain of function. Right.
So why? See, we got the Department of Defense the U.S. Army, and the Central Intelligence Agency. They all have chemical and biological weapon departments. They have specialists in these departments, epidemiologists, virologists, doctors, nurses, etc. Look at Yakub. One more thing.
Yes,
This
sir.
is something I pulled from Stanford University, prestigious university, right? In these
Right.
universities, I didn't even have time to go into Johns Hopkins, what I know about them. But just real quick, this is what they call black biology, right? So the idea that anybody can brew anthrax and then
All right, family, we got a technical difficulty going on. See if we can get our brother back on. Bear with me, family. All right, family. It seems that we got cut off. Oh, here we go. Never mind. There we go. I was about to go into a little spiel about how we got cut off and the brother came back on. All right, cool.
hey,
Yeah.
bro, they on us, bro.
So every time you start going in, here they go.
So real quick, right? Just to knock off this Stanford study they put together, right? So again, this is called black biology. So it says that they're talking about anthrax. The idea that anybody can brew anthrax in their garage vastly over the case. But any technology that can be used to insert genes into DNA can be used for either good or bad. So this goes back to what we were saying about the ability to insert genes into viruses to change
That's right.
the way they work. This is real, right?
The way they function,
So,
right?
right. So he says that we're pointing out that genetic maps of deadly viruses, bacteria, and other microorganisms already are widely available in the public domain. See that? Last summer, for example, a leading scientific journal published the entire genetic code for the cholera pathogen. Look at that. See that? So they put online the genetic code for cholera pathogen, meaning that someone who has the science for it can go and develop their own cholera biological weapon, right? And legitimate researchers are now in the process of mapping the genomes of more than 100 of the microbes, including the bacteria that cause anthrax, the plague, and typhoid. This is a recent article from Stanford University. So, again, this is the military. I'm researching and examining this information on a daily basis, along with you know, what I do. So again, FOI,
Yes,
this is
sir.
military.
Yes, sir.
Every
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
soldier has to do what his MOS calls for him to do. See that?
Right.
What is your MOS as an FOI? Your military occupational skill. Mine is what we're talking about here right now. And we got, again, engineers,
Yes, sir.
researchers like yourself, engineers like your partner, Brother Jabril. We have to have these MOS skills in order to build our nation and to protect ourselves, brothers and sisters. See?
Absolutely.
Any
Yes, sir.
questions?
Yes, sir. And just to say that again.
No, I'm saying any questions.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have two more questions from the audience, and then we're gonna
Right.
wrap them up. So
Yes.
if you can kind of answer them like real straight, fast
Yes,
with
sir.
it. But I just wanted to add one thing to what you were saying in the documents you brought up. We're not saying that, this is just to the audience. We're not saying that the coronavirus is man-made. We're saying that it has the potential to be used
Right.
as a bioweapon. We all know this is a
Right.
pestilence from heaven. We've been
Right.
taught that. The minister talked about that in Criterion. We know where it's coming from, but the enemy can use it to do other things if they wanted to, and they have been investigating things in that area. So it's definitely possible. We have one question from, let's see, Sister Peggy Muhammad. She says, "Assalamu alaikum. Don't infectious diseases in human beings come from animals?"
Don't infectious diseases in human beings come from animals? They claim that some of them do. And I've read scientific evidence that shows that there are some viruses that are or can be transferred from animals into humans, especially through the process of mutations. They claim that many of the variations of influenza, some say, come from pigs, because there were studies where they found that people who worked in farms, especially around pigs, they had a certain type of influenza that they traced back into pigs. And again, this is known as zoological ways of transferring from animal to human.
All right, good, beloved.
So,
You didn't stop talking.
Right. Yeah, did you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. Good.
Right. Oh, I had finished answering the question. I don't know whether you.
Oh, no, sir. Go ahead. Keep going. You already
no,
finished?
saying, yeah. I was just saying that zoological means that the virus or disease can be transferred or transmitted from animal to human being. It happens through different processes of mutations, according to their science.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
All right. So we have another. And Sister Peggy, please let us know if that answered your question by dropping the one in the comment section. Now we have another question from Brother Ahmad X Parker. He said, "I only have one question. Is human well, let me put it up there. Is herd immunity better than the alleged vaccine? And is ivermectin best for the total population in America and across the globe?" I apologize, got here 20 minutes late.
Right. Good question. Ivermectin, first of all, I'm not a medical doctor. I've read various articles about ivermectin, of course, in the Final Call newspaper. I know that some of the doctors in the Nation of Islam are promoting it, but being that I'm not a medical doctor, I would be out of line for trying to answer that part of the question because that's not my lane. The other part, is herd immunity better in the alleged vaccine. Let me answer that this way. The vaccine is experimental. There's not enough data for them to even determine if this so-called vaccine works. Herd immunity happens naturally in any given population that is dealing with an epidemic or pandemic. Sometimes if the therapies, I'm going to call it, if therapies are developed to help push herd immunity, then it's definitely a plus. But in this particular case, with COVID-19, we don't know that yet. There's just not enough evidence in. And I'll give you an example. Going back to HIV, through modern medications, which we don't have time to get into, there's a herd immunity effect where HIV is concerned. See, because the virus itself is still spreadable, transmissible, but now the medications that have been developed to deal with it, they work so well that there's lower transmission rates. So in a case like that, it demonstrates how medications assist the effect of herd immunity. So right now, we don't have enough evidence to determine if the therapies that they develop for COVID will works in the same way. We don't have that information yet. But that's something that they're pushing towards. Right.
Got it. And to Brother Ahmad, if you want to get a better understanding of herd immunity and what stage we are at in the pandemic, definitely watch the playback of this episode where Brother explains the stages that we're in and why these stages are important for getting over this pandemic. And also to the ivermectin part, I can answer the question because I help make therapies, but we did interview Dr. Sophia Shabazz a few months ago about her process and how she's been using ivermectin. So definitely check out,
Mm-hmm.
definitely check out that episode.
Mm-hmm.
She goes into details. She talks about her experiences in a clinical setting with treating her patients. So definitely check that out. Now that we're coming up on the end of the show, we do this thing called a social media tap-in, right? Where we pull from your social media and ask you a question about the image that we see. Can we do that?
Sure.
All right, cool. So we got an image right here of I think this is maybe a community service event you participating in. What's going on?
Yes, but at that particular event, we were doing a health fair with the Bronx District Attorney's Office, and the lady that you see with me in the picture, she's one of the program directors that oversees another team. So our teams collaborate at these events, and we provide HIV screenings, Hep C screenings, counseling services, and referrals for mental health and medical services at these medical fairs. So that's where that picture's from.
Excellent. And do you see yourself working? I'm not sure how far along the Ministry of Health is in New York, or what type of work Mosque Number 7 is doing in that ministry. But are you all working to build that up, or is that something that you all kind of start to develop?
That's a good question. Actually, we have quite a bit of medical professionals in New York. Mosque believes.
Oh yeah, I know quite a few of them. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny you asked that question because recently I had that conversation with Assistant Student Minister Arthur Muhammad, and recently with our student captain, Richard Muhammad. I had that conversation with both of them recently about setting up a committee that can work towards establishing the Ministry of Health in New York City. Because I actually, I took something from what Dr. Aleem said. I think I heard it on your show.
Right. He set it up back in the day. Right.
But he said that, first of all, he gave an excellent example of organizational structure that we should use. And he said that we should begin as a committee, right? Because we're not yet ready to call it an actual ministry yet. So start at the committee level. So that's something that I'm looking at now on how we can develop a committee that will draw all our medical professionals from the city, then working on what to construct it. Because, you know, we really gonna have to get those instructions directly from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Because although a lot of us are medical professionals, you know, he knows the divine blueprint of what that's supposed to look like. And one of the things I love that Dr. Aleem said, whoever's over any of the 9 ministries, we have to be like Minister Farrakhan in
for that ministry.
Position,
right.
For that
right.
ministry.
Right. It's equivalent.
Right.
Yeah.
So
spiritual.
that is that's something that we really gonna have to filter. I already see it.
Absolutely.
Because we can't go into this with the mindset of what we learned from the enemy or how the enemy operates in his organizations. We could take some, but we got to take the blueprint, the total blueprint of how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is going to give it to us. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and
sir.
even coming through our National Council of Laborers. You know?
Yes, sir.
So again, we're in a serious time, and being that we are kind of going back into the building, we're all going to have to sit down and have these hard conversations on what direction that we're going to go in, because this is serious now, you know. And Allah,
Absolutely.
in the person of Master Muhammad, is showing us that we have to separate from this enemy. COVID is showing us that through him, like you said, the pestilence from heaven. We got to separate in order to protect ourselves and to take ourselves into the future and thereafter. This is real.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, it's about to be 10 o'clock. And,
yes,
you know, it doesn't feel like it's been 2 hours, but we definitely, yeah. Right. We started, we wanted to start at 8 and it ended up being 12 minutes behind, but, you know, almost going on 2 hours.
I think the NSA was trying to block us.
Yeah, it's okay. that's perfectly fine, you know, because we it's gonna get done whether we were on here or not. So praise be to Allah. But I want to play a short clip real quick about the Final Call newspaper, and then I'm gonna go into what this week's issue is about. All right, family, so stay tapped in.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call digital edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
All right, family, this week's issue of the Final Call newspaper is about a young brother who was recently killed by the police in Clayton County, Georgia. 59 shots in a cover-up. Officers are charged in the shooting of a young Black man in the Atlanta area. The victim's family and others hoping justice will result from the prosecution in a case where Jamarion Robinson was shot 59 times by law enforcement officers. In this particular issue of Final Call, I used to live in Clayton County, Georgia, and I'm very familiar with the police setup in that county. And it's a lot that the people go through in that county just with traffic alone and traffic tickets and stuff like that. It's just a lot of over the top madness in that county. But I pray to Allah that our brother does receive the justice that he deserves, and I pray that Allah comforts his family and friends. But definitely check out this week's edition of the Final Call newspaper, Black-owned newspaper, uncompromised truth, and it gives it to you straight. And definitely check out every part of the Final Call, from How to Eat to Live to the Muslim program. Please check out the Final Call newspaper. If you're in the Philadelphia area, definitely get your paper from your brother Jabril, and if you're in the Richmond, Virginia area, get your paper from me, and I got you squared away on that. All right, family. So I just want to thank my brother again, Brother Robert, epidemiologist, and he is working hard in one of the fields that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke about in the criterion. And I look forward to everything that you're going to do for the nation. I thank you for everything you've done for our people and the nation. And are there any closing remarks that you want to leave the audience with before we leave?
Oh, yes, sir. Let's build a nation. Let's not talk about it. Let's be about it. You know, we have to take separation seriously, and we cannot be afraid to, you know, with the right skills, at the right time, and in the right places, to walk away from white supremacy. We got to do
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We
Absolutely. We have to do it. Ain't no other choice. Praise be to Allah. All right, family. Thank you all for tuning in. Also, as well, next week's guest is Brother Ilya Rashad. He's going to be doing part 2 on the science of the wheel.
Yes, sir.
That's going to be next. Yes, sir. It's going to be next Thursday, November 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. He's also going to be talking about what he does with beekeeping, him and his family. So definitely check that out. That's one of the most requested part 2s that we've ever had. We're going to be going into more of the science of the wheel, questions that we didn't really get to ask, questions that we still have a very long list from the audience. And yeah, that's going to be a very special episode. So definitely tune in next week at same time, same place.
Excellent.
All right, family. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you so much, brother, for joining me tonight.
Thank you,
this
brother.
is the STEM Files.
Well.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. This is the STEM Files on Facebook and YouTube. You can follow us on our social media pages at the STEM Files on Instagram and Twitter, and the STEM Files on Facebook and YouTube. Hosted by Tariq Cardiac and Jabrain Engineer. All right, family. Please have a good night. Be safe. And may God and Allah continue to bless you. Peace.
Peace.